Hi guys, happy Sunday. I hope that you've had a good day thus far. I wanted to come on and talk to you. I've been doing some studying, and so I have a few things that I'd like to share. So come on in, join me, come on in. Those of you that are familiar with Rachel and Leah, that's who we're going to be talking about today, is Rachel and Leah. A lot of us have heard about them, these sisters that argued, that fight, that had a lot of jealousy and envy. And so I want to talk about them, and I want to talk about what they represent for us today and what they can really teach us in their story. For those of you that don't know about Leah and Rachel, Rachel was known as the attractive sister. She was the one that Jacob wanted to marry. It's mentioned in the Bible that she was a shepherd, so she was likely a hardworking woman that was attractive, that was very coveted, very wanted. Leah is mentioned as someone that was not so pretty. Some of the things that are said about her in the Bible are that she wasn't easy on the eyes, or that she potentially had eye issues. Maybe she had a lazy eye, or she had some sort of problem seeing. Different things are said about Leah, but they're not positive in terms of how she looked. We know that Jacob loved Rachel so much that he wanted to work for her for 7 years. So he went to her father. He said, I want your daughter. What is it that I need to do to get your daughter? And he said, work for me for 7 years and you can have her. So he did that. He worked hard for his love. He respected her father. He made sure that he assisted in growing his sheep and growing his cattle and making her father money. What ended up happening is that he is then tricked. Jacob is tricked into marrying Leah. And so he's obviously not happy about that. He devoted his time and his efforts into marrying Rachel. And he's tricked and he's with Leah. Obviously, being Leah was probably very difficult. She knew that Rachel was who was coveted. She knew that Jacob wanted to marry her sister. She knew that she was older, that she was unattractive, that there were all these things that were against her. And yet, here she is. She's in this situation. She's in this marriage, and she's in this relationship. And, hey, sis, how are you? And so she's entering into this situation probably with a lot of jealousy, probably with a lot of anger and envy towards Rachel, rightfully so. In return, however, what we find out is that when they both end up finally being married to Jacob, Rachel cannot conceive. So what's interesting is the dynamic between the two sisters is that they both have things to be jealous about. Rachel cannot conceive, yet she's attractive. Leah can conceive, yet she's deemed as unattractive. So it really brought up some things in my mind of, do we ever consider that the thing that we want the most in someone else, you might have the thing that they want back? So this whole time where they have this relationship where they're fighting with each other and they're competing with each other, they both want something that the other person has. And they're not considering that the gift that God has given them is so amazing, is so great, and that there's something that they each already have, that they already hold, that they should be appreciative of. So we go on and we see the pain. We see the pain in each of these sisters. We go on and we see that, Leah's like, God, I want to be able to give this man these kids so that he can love me more. I want him to love me more. Her heart and her mind is set on trying to make this man love her more. How many people experience that? How many people try to do everything under the sun to get the attention of someone, to get the attention of a spouse, to get the attention of a boyfriend, to get the attention of someone else? I think that a lot of times we put our focus on things that should not be focused on. If we go to Genesis and we go to chapter 30 and we go to verse 31, it says, when the Lord saw that Leah was not loved, he enabled her to conceive, but Rachel remained childless. What I do want to mention to you is that even though Leah could not, be attractive by the eye or by what we would consider attractive, she was honored by God. God saw the things that she was struggling with, and God said, I'm going to give you. God bless you as well, Sister Beverly. Hi, Christina. How are you? Thanks for joining. He said, I'm going to still enable you to have children. I'm going to still bless you. I'm going to give you something. What we see, though, after that is that even though she has a kid, she then has 4 more children, and the entire time that she's having children, her faith is growing. Her first son, which she names Reuben, she names him Reuben, and it actually is associated with misery because she's still in misery. She's still, feeling slighted. She's still feeling like she doesn't have the attention of Jacob. And what we end up seeing about Reuben is that Reuben actually goes on to enact misery. Reuben is mentioned as someone that ends up sleeping with one of his father's wives. So the thing that she put on, that she projected onto the gift that God gave her, it then goes on to manifest exactly what she projected. Instead of receiving it as a gift, instead of receiving it as a blessing, she receives it as something that was still deemed as misery. And the way that she received her gift is the way that it manifested. How many of us receive gifts and we don't think about what they can be, what they are, and appreciate them, and we put a label on them, we put a stamp on them, and then they turn into whatever that label and whatever that stamp is? That's what Leah did with Reuben. As she goes on, she grows and she is becoming, she grows and she's becoming stronger in her faith. By the time she has her fourth son, she is now changing these names that she's giving her sons. She gives her fourth son the name Judah. The name Judah means praise. So now by this time, she is praising God for her gifts. She's praising God for her sons. And we're seeing the transition in the names of these sons. And now we can say that Judah goes on then to be a mighty man of God. Judah is in direct lineage to Jesus. So the fact that the way that she received Judah changed from the way that she received Reuben shows us that her mindset, the way that she saw the gift that God gave her, allowed it to manifest differently in the world, allowed it to be different, allowed it to take on a completely different calling. Now, we're talking about Leah and we see these things that she's going through. Now let's go back to Rachel. Like I said, Rachel was not able to conceive. So while Jacob loved her, while Jacob was attracted to her, she's watching Leah conceive. And this is the one thing that she wants to do. She wants to conceive. She's watching Leah conceive. And so she goes to Jacob and she says, I will die if I don't have a kid. I will die if I don't have a child. What's interesting about that is the Bible does not say that she goes to God. It says that she goes to Jacob. Therein lies one of the first issues. Instead of her saying, God, I need a child. I want a child. This is how I feel. She takes it to her husband. She relies on her husband. She blames her husband. She puts her faith in her husband. And while that is the person that she is walking in life with, he can't make that decision for her. He can't make that happen. He can't allow those things that she wants to be so. So she's putting all of her faith and all of her attention into Jacob and saying, Jacob, I have to have this or I will die. And Jacob gets upset with her. Jacob tells her, am I God? I can't do that. I can't be the one to give you that. How many of us put our faith in someone else? Put our faith in our spouses, put our faith in other people, and never remember that we have to take it to God first, that we have to give it to God first. That in order for there to be something done in that situation, in that position, it has to be given to God. God has to step in. The difference in this is that Leah was bringing her issues to God, and Rachel wasn't. So now Rachel brings, this to Jacob, and she's feeling low. She's feeling like, my sister's able to give you kids, and I'm not. Something has to be done. And she goes, and she gets her maidservant, Bilpah, and she says, sleep with Bilpah. You will have 2 sons with Bilpah, and they'll be my 2 sons. And that's how she sees, she's going to fix this situation. She's going to now have 2 kids through Bilpah. Now, Bilpah gets pregnant. She does have 2 sons. She's kind of one of the first surrogate mothers that we see in Genesis, in the Bible. And I think that speaks to something in itself. Now, Bilpah and Zilpah are the 2 maidservants for Rachel and Leah, and we don't really hear too much about them other than the fact that, they ended up conceiving for these women. But what's interesting is that obviously Bilpah and Zilpah, it doesn't say that they wanted this. It doesn't say that they asked for this. It doesn't say that this is something that they wanted to do. They were maidservants. They didn't have a choice. They were involuntarily involved in someone else's mess, in someone else's situation. What happens when you're involuntarily involved in someone else's situation? Have you ever felt like someone put you in something and you just didn't want to be in it? Or someone expected something of you that you really didn't want to give? Someone wanted you to help them in a situation that you really felt like you couldn't help them in? What I learned through these 2 maidservants is through them actually being able to bless the people that they served, they ended up being a part of history. Now, like I said, we don't hear much more. You've been there, Christina? I think we've all been there. I know we don't hear much more about these women, but what we do know is that the two sons that are conceived through these maidservants end up going on to be forefathers of a third of the Israelite nation. So while they probably were thinking, I don't want anything to do with this, what they gave still ended up affecting our history. It still meant something. So sometimes be okay with your involuntary involvement. Understand that God has a purpose and a plan, and there's a whole reason why you were asked to be a part of something, why you're in this, why you're doing this, and you never know what your legacy could then bring. You never know what your involvement can have, what kind of blessing it could have, not only on the person that you're involved with or helping, but also for your own life. Because these women then went on, like I said, to have two sons that are part of a third of the Israelite generation. Forefathers of a third of the Israelite generation. That's big. So let's go back to Rachel and Leah. Now, Rachel has watched Leah give birth to all these kids. She has these two kids from this maidservant. And finally, she has the opportunity to have a son. And she gives birth to Joseph. Now, all of us know who Joseph is. So Joseph is just, another biblical, historical person that we know. We can talk about it another time, but we know he held weight in the Bible. He has a story that we can learn from. So Rachel then has her own son, and she goes on to say, thank you, God, for this son. I'm going to have another son. What is interesting is that when she has this second son, who is Benjamin, she dies. Now let's remember, Rachel said, if I do not have a son, I will die. But what ends up happening is in her second son, she dies. She thought that the lack of having a son, that the thing that she wanted the most was what was going to give her life, but the thing that she wanted the most is what caused her death. So what I see, what I hear when I read this and when I think about this is we don't always know what's best. We don't always know the answers. Perhaps there was a reason why God said, no, that's not going to be for you at this time. But it was what she wanted so bad that she said, I would die if I don't have this. And she ended up dying when she got it. Are there any things that we are so adamant about having and we can never understand why is it that God isn't giving us that? We can't understand, God, why? I've asked you for this. I've prayed for this. I've cried for this. I feel like it's the last thing that I need. I feel like, it's what I deserve. And we don't understand why. In the end of her life, Rachel ended up learning why. The thing that she said that she would die without, she died from. So sometimes all the time, you have to have faith. You have to know that what God has planned for you, the way that he wants to do it is exactly right. I think a lot of times we pray about things and we ask for things and we don't understand that God's giving us gifts and he's giving us blessings, and they just might not be packaged the way that we want them to be packaged. And they may not come exactly how we want them to come. But it's not for us to make that decision. And that's what these two women show. The reality is Rachel did have talents. She was a shepherd. She was beautiful. She had a husband that loved her. She had things that she could be happy about. She had things that she could be praising God about. She had things that, other women wanted. Her sister wanted. But she was so focused on the one thing she did not have that she lost sight of all the things that she did have. And on the flip side, Leah had the same issue. She was not beautiful. She, was not who Jacob wanted to choose first. That was what she was struggling with. But she was able to have kids, and the kids that she did have ended up being historical, prominent men in the Bible. 2 of them. 2 out of the 7 kids she had ended up being in Jesus' bloodline. That's big. One of her other sons that we didn't mention was Levi. So he was in the direct lineage of priesthood. And this whole time, all she's worried about is, I need this attention. I want to be loved the way she's being loved. And the whole time, it was a setup. It was a setup for the future. It was a setup for the things that were going to come from her, that were going to manifest even after she was gone. Something else that I do want to mention too is that even after the story is over, these two women are then mentioned in Ruth. If you go to Ruth, and I'm going to read it to you. If you go to Ruth, chapter 4, verse 11, it says, "Then the elders and all the people at the gate said, 'We are witnesses. May the Lord make the woman who is coming into your home like Rachel and Leah, who together built up the family of Israel.'" So despite the reality that there were certain things that Rachel had that Leah didn't have, and there were certain things that Leah had that Rachel didn't have, despite the fact that there were, certain things that they both could give that one couldn't at one point or another, when they were gone, when their life was over, their legacy still lived on, and elders still said, "May you have a home like Rachel and Leah, who together built the family of Israel." So although Leah had 7 kids on her own and then had 2 through a maidservant, and Rachel had 2 kids and had 2 through a maidservant, they both were seen as the 2 women. That's big. So you're so focused on what you can see in front of you that you don't realize that what God gave you, that what you actually do have, the things that you're taking for granted, the gifts that are right in front of you, that are inside of you, the things that you're not utilizing, the things that, other people see that they want, that those things are still important, that those things can still affect your situation. It can still affect the things that come after you, the people that come after you, your lineage, your families, your friends. What are those things in your life that you need to take a better look at? Can you see past your pain? Can you allow your pain to move out of the way so that you can recognize what those things are? Because I think sometimes we're so blinded by our pain that we can't even recognize the blessings. We don't even see our gifts. All we can focus on is the pain. It's what hurts, or the things that we want. And if we can't get past that pain, then we can't see the things that he's given us. We can't see what we can do. We can't see what he's calling us to do. I believe that Leah and Rachel, they teach us about pain. They teach us about faith. They teach us about involuntary involvement. And they teach us about the afterlife of our decisions. Because all of their decisions had an afterlife, even in the lives of their kids. Hey, sis, how are you? Tree, I see you. Those are the things that I really want everyone to ask themselves today. Can you see past your pain? And I'm really moved to pray right now with everyone, so that's what we're going to do. Father God, thank you for your word. Thank you for giving us characters and women and men in the Bible that we can read every day that can teach us not only about who we are, but who we can become, about who we're destined to be, about who you've called us to be. God, remove the blinders that we have right now in front of us so that we can see the gifts that you've placed inside of us, the gifts that you've placed next to us. Allow us not to be competitive and jealous and to be envious over the things that we see in other people and the gifts that we see in other people, but allow us to be appreciative of what you've given us. Allow us to recognize what you've given us and be thankful, God, and to utilize it how you've called us to utilize it. Allow us to see that we all are different, that we're all unique, that the beauty on the inside and the outside can be different, but it can all be used by you, that it's all been given to you by you. And because it's been given by you, God, it's amazing. It's superb. It's awesome. There's none like it. You've created each and every one of us different. You've created us each unique. And we thank you for our uniqueness, God. And we ask right now that you allow us to see past the pain, to see into our hearts, to see into our gifts, to see into our calling, and to really be able to help one another, to build up families, to build up generations, to build up businesses, to build up ideas, and not feel like it's taking anything from each other, to help, to love, to understand, to relate. I speak right now that whoever is struggling, battling with the things that they know they have, the talents and the gifts that they know you've placed inside of them. That person that is consistently looking at someone else and saying, they can do it, but I can't. I ask that you show them that they can, that you remind them that you've been with them, that you are with them, that you stand next to them, and that you will forever support them. That if you said it was so, that you'll be there. That if you said it was so, that it is. I thank you, God, and we love you. In Jesus' name. Yes, the afterlife of your decisions. God bless all of you. If you would like to just read more into the stories, I really recommend that you do. I encourage you to do so. It's really helped me, and I know that it can help you as well. I believe that these characters, that they really can affect our everyday decisions in our lives. I think sometimes we see the drama that happens around us. We see all of the things that are happening around us, and it seems like so much. It seems like, again, like it's more than should be bearable, like it's more than, oh, thank you, Marcus, like it's more, than what we can really bear or what you can change. And the reality is the people that are in this book have some soap operas going on. Like, I don't think we actually recognize and realize when we really talk about even Leah and Rachel, they had some soap operas going on. Like, they're sisters who are fighting over a man, who are competing constantly, who had maid servants lay with their husband to have kids for them, who's some of the kids ended up going back and sleeping with the maid servants. I mean, it's drama. And yet they were still used, yet they're still powerful, yet we can still learn from them. So the reality is our mess really isn't too much. So I just really want to encourage you to read not just this story, but any story that you can, and to learn from them. Because I believe that they're there for a reason, and I believe that it's proof and it's evidence that our mess isn't too much, that our stuff isn't too much, and that it happened then, and we can learn from it. So I would like to invite you to go to my website. It's www.herstorylives.com. There's some more messages on there that you can see that I hope will bless you. I always want to talk about my Mary and Elizabeth network because I already see that it's doing some dynamic things, and some of the women that have joined. For those of you that don't know what that is, the Mary and Elizabeth network is a network that I created for Her Story Lives, and it's really just to connect sisters from all over. They are paired. It's someone that you've never met. They're paired, and they're able to just build a relationship throughout the course of a year, through email, through text, through Skype, through Zoom, whatever it is that the two women decide to do, whatever works best for them. They use that, and they build this relationship, and they help each other, and they support each other, and they take turns mentoring each other and pouring into one another. And there's no prerequisite to be in this. I think that some people get afraid because they feel like, I can't join this network because what can I give somebody? And like I said in my last video, the reality is even the teacher learns from teaching. And the teacher's always a student at some point. So you have to understand that you might be paired with someone that knows more biblically than you. And that should be great because you can learn from them, but understand that while they teach you, they'll be learning too. That there's never a point where there's nothing that you can give someone. And that's what I really want this network to be about. So the Mary and Elizabeth network is open to women from ages 18 and up. And so you'll be paired with a woman, and you'll be able to foster this relationship throughout the course of a year, support each other, challenge one another, be an accountability partner for one another. And then at the end of the year, we have what we're going to call the LEAP Conference, which is really completely based off of the story of Mary and Elizabeth, where the baby in Elizabeth's womb leaps. And at that LEAP Conference, you'll be able to meet the woman that you are paired with, and you'll be able to meet other women that have been also paired and have been talking and growing and learning with one another. And we'll just have a retreat where we worship together, where we encourage one another, where we talk about some of the experiences that we've all been through. I think I saw a couple of my sisters on here that encourage me. So Bianca, Tree, I saw you guys. I'm actually going through the process myself, so I'm not just founding this network and not being a part of the process. Bianca and I are doing the same exercises that all of the other women are doing. So I think that is definitely necessary for me as well. So yes, I really would like you to join. Just go to herstorylives.com. If you go to the About Us section, if you're on your laptop, it'll be on the right side of the page at the very bottom. If you're on your phone, you just scroll down to the bottom, and all you do is fill out the form, and then someone will get back to you, and you will be paired with a woman. And so I would love for you to come on and be a part of that. There is some other study sessions and tools and different things on the website that you can also check out, and I'd love for you to. And then as well, there are some shirts. So I have a store on there, and you can see a lot of different shirts that represent a lot of different women of the Bible, and just the idea of celebrating these hidden figures that are right there in the Bible that we really don't listen to or hear from. And so I would love for you ladies to check that out and see some of those and wear them out and hopefully allow them to be conversation starters. I think that's the most important thing, is that you'll be motivated to learn about these women. And then as you walk around with the shirts on, people are going to ask you, hey, who's Deborah? Who's Phoebe? What does this mean? And you'll be able to tell them this is what it means. So you got your shirts, Kenyatta? Yay! I know I do have some orders, and so I have some more going out Monday. So if you ordered your shirt, be looking for it. It's coming. But yes, go on, get some shirts, join the Mary and Elizabeth Network, connect with me, chat with me. I'm here for you. And I love all of you. Thanks so much. Wait, what was that? You don't have to know all of these women, Renike. I'm glad you said that. The idea of Her Story Lives is that I don't think we know these women. So let's compare it to Hidden Figures. When we saw the movie Hidden Figures, the whole idea of having that was because there are these women that deserve to be celebrated. There are women that we didn't know existed in these certain sectors. And because of the fact that we didn't know that, they had a movie that was created. And what it ended up doing for us was it motivated us. It allowed little girls to say, oh, wow, like she looks like me. I can do that. Oh, wow, I can't believe that they were, important people in this part of history. And so it's allowed people to now then want to uncover other hidden figures. And so that's what this is all about. So the fact that you don't know these women is exactly what I'm hoping. I hope that there are people that don't know these women. If you've never heard of Phoebe, let's talk about her. If you've never heard of Priscilla, let's talk about her. If you've never heard of Deborah, let's talk about her. It's a great way to learn, to start conversation, and that's exactly what this is for. So please don't feel bad if you don't know who these people are. I think that it's great that you don't, because it gives you fresh eyes and it gives you the opportunity to then learn about who these women are and to really learn from them. Does that sound okay? Thank you, Ashley. I do plan on doing a video. By the end of this, I'm going to do a video on every woman. But if there are some women that you just would like to learn from, go on the website and you can see them, Renike, as well. So if you want to go on there and see some of the ones that have already been done, then you can do that. There's also some blog posts so that you can see some things that have been written on them as well. So www.herstorylives.com. And I will be back on. I'm going to probably do 2 videos a week. So I'll be back on Wednesday. And I'll talk to you guys soon.